All right, welcome back, folks, for another round of InDesign. We are at step 3, which is going to feature multiple columnar arrangements and scale change. So we're just going to pick up where we left off with the last step, step 2, and you can simply add to these pages. You can duplicate a page. For example, I'm going to take page 3 and move it down in order, or move 4 up in order, like so. And from there, I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate this page. Now, you'll want to make sure that you keep these pages straight, and it's a little risky keeping everything in one file, but it does make your task and your workflow a lot easier. The negative side is that if you lose a file and you've got everything that you've created in one file, that could spell trouble. But the name of the game is to make sure that you're keeping backups and having, some place other than wherever your primary storage space is going to be. Because as I said in my syllabus, there's absolutely no excuse for losing your files. It's one thing if your file gets corrupted, but again, it's a good practice to have those backups. Okay, so I've selected this page now, the last page, and I'm going to go to my options here within the pages and say duplicate the spread. Okay, so when I select page 5, it's identical to page 4, but I'm going to go ahead and edit this page. Alrighty, so from here, what we're basically going to do is talk about a couple of things. First of all, hyphenation. Let's do a Command A, and I've added the paragraph tab to my favorite menus. If yours isn't there by default, then what you want to do is go ahead and select paragraphs from the menu, the up top menu, and you can just literally drop and drag that tab into your grouping here. So I associated mine with the pages, and here we go with tab. So I've selected all of this copy, and I'm going to turn the hyphenation off. Okay, in that way, if I'm going to be moving things around, I won't have those hyphenations to get in the way. Okay. As the document, my PDF document explains, basically what we're going to do is we're going to break apart this text. So I'm going to select this first paragraph because I've reviewed it. I think it's worthy of being more important and stated in such a way that there's a kind of a hierarchy. So, well, I'm going to take the Command X, I'm going to cut that out, and now I've created a new starting paragraph here, so I'll go ahead and remove that tab, and I'm going to drop and drag a new text box and paste. Command V. Okay, I'll choose some type from another portion, let's say this bottom paragraph, same thing. Command X, new text box, Command V. So what I'm looking to do is to break this up into like 3 or 4 paragraphs. Now, I also stated in the handout that I want to work with about 100 to 125 words, because we're going to start to push and pull this copy, and if we've got too much copy, there's going to be a limit to the kind of formatting that you'll be able to do. So eliminating about 70 so words from this document is what we want to do. So let's go to our window tab and activate that info button, and there's 56. Let's take out this whole paragraph here, and now that should get us down to that number. There's 50, 51, and another. So we're right at about 150. So let's take out this sentence here, and that seems about right. Again, I'm not so much interested in the content at this particular point, although I am interested in having you make some informed editing decisions to get some things down to some basic ideas. All right, So let's start to activate some of this copy. What are ways in which we can do that? Well, as I stated, I'm going to start with this paragraph here, and I like that first sentence. And let's go ahead and take the letter T again. Select that first sentence, Command X, and again, create a new text box. What I'm interested in doing is exploring this notion of how we can read text in a way that's just not simply a matter from top to bottom, left to right, but that we start to use scale to create emphasis. So let's take this box, and I'm going to take this type, do a Command A. Again, Command Shift greater than. I'm breaking up, or I'm sorry, I should say that I am enlarging the type. Oops. And I'm, again, looking to create a visual starting point. Now, all of a sudden, I've got something that my eye clearly gravitates towards. How I read this, even though this box is above this paragraph, I would argue that I'd probably read this first before that. So in which case I might start here, see this as kind of ancillary to that, but perhaps see a greater relationship between these three blocks because of the fact that I start here and my natural inclination is to read down. This might appear as an afterthought. I can enhance that by bringing these two paragraphs closer together, moving this one somewhat down more. So now clearly you've got to get a sense that this information here, and if we look at it purely as a matter of information, is a kind of a punctuation to this page. It is sort of set apart and perhaps maybe not germane to the larger conversation that's expressed in these three blocks of copy. In this exercise, what I wish you to do is to play around with the idea of hierarchy. Now, I can confuse things real easy by going up to this box here and expanding this type, making it larger. I'm not so sure where I'm going to go first now. These two blocks seem to be paired with one another. They seem to be having a relationship. And where formerly I might begin with this block, I'm now starting to regard these two as being related. In fact, I probably am going to start with this paragraph and work my way down. So I think I'd prefer to keep this as it were. What happens, however, if I start to align these three boxes? Now all of a sudden, I've sort of defeated, or at least maybe taking away some of that emphasis, because now I've got this strong vertical axis that's running through the composition. I like to refer to this as a cross-axial relationship. In other words, I've got a strong vertical and a strong horizontal. If I open up this box like so and increase the horizontal width of that block, I feel as though I've created greater emphasis on this because I've expanded the length of that. I've defined this cross-axial relationship even more so. If I were to increase the vertical axis of these boxes, and maybe expand this, once again, I seem to restore the separateness between these three blocks. So folks, this is all about relationships, and I'm looking for you to observe how the composition is affected by strong horizontals, strong verticals. Throughout these 4 exercises, begin by rearranging the type. Explore various compositions. Step back and ask yourself, how do you feel about this composition? How does it read? Where does my eye go first, second, third, in some cases fourth and fifth? Try to keep it, in terms of the number of the blocks, follow the examples in the PDF where I simply am working with like about 3 or 4 blocks of copy. Let's say that we're happy with this particular design and we want to move on to another. Well, simply what you can do is go ahead and select this spot page and duplicate it and start off again. In the previous exercise, you were just exploring various different sizes and lettings of type. Within this exercise, continue to do so. Examine what happens as you enlarge the type, increasing the scale, and thus increasing the kind of spatial activity that happens between them. This works best if you limit the number of words to around 100 to 125. It's kind of a tension that happens right here I'm a little uneasy with. I might just simply choose to move these guys over a little bit. I'm using the arrow keys on the keypad, on your keyboard rather, to actually move those pieces of type over. I like this function too. You'll note that as I move the type, I get a highlight happening with the green line. That indicates to me that there is in fact an orientation or a vertical alignment between those blocks. Okay? Do 4 of these. Keep the typeface at Universe 55. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Helvetica regular. We're not mixing weights at this time. All we are doing is working with scale change and arrangement and breaking the blocks of copy up into separate parts. Be aware of what happens when you create relationships along a horizontal axis and relationships around a vertical axis. Note how the negative space in this area seems to be activated by the presence of these blocks of copy. This block seems to be informed by the presence of this block here. This block and its weight and its size seems to echo the negative space in here. Begin to be aware and look for these kinds of relationships as you progress and creating several variations on this design. That's it for now. Thank you.